Right, okay, because I've got because I'm a bit surprised when I saw this, but I've seen some Celtic fans saying it as well. I don't know, it depends on maybe the way in which you're watching the game. I was obviously watching this from a Hearts perspective,
Mhm.
but I did see people in the group chat saying this was maybe Celtic's best performance of the season, and there were Celtic fans on the Celtic forum, Kerrydale Street, saying it was probably their best performance since they gubbed us in the Scottish Cup back in March, I believe that would have been.
Mm.
So, for those who are not Hearts fans who are watching this through well, neutral's maybe a bit of a stretch, especially for Euan. But unless kind of maroon tinted specs, was this Celtic's best performance of the season?
Yes. Yeah, it was definitely. But the best I've seen them anyway. And I would say I've seen probably most Celtic games this season.
Of course you have.
Yeah, of course, absolutely have. And yeah, they haven't looked as fluid as that to me. They haven't looked sort of generally as all round solid. I think it's just the all round best performance. I've not been particularly impressed with Celtic this season, but today was impressive. So I'm not sure anything that Hearts would have done would have worked. Albeit it's unlikely that what they tried was going to work. But yeah, they were good. I think Matt O'Reilly again. I mean, he's been the best player in the country this season. Continued in that vein. Luis Palma. I'm not 100% sold on him yet, but he definitely has. He's quite different from what they have. So that's particularly he's almost the complete opposite from Maida in so many ways. Like he's all sort of he's very good at kicking the ball, and he's not that good at running, whereas Maida's probably the other way around. So that kind of works, and there's also a lovely pass for O'Reilly's goal and even better finish. So yeah, that's as good as Celtic have been, if that is any solace, Craig.
Not really. I mean, it feels like. I mean, Matt O'Reilly right now is so very clearly the player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how many? It's at that point now where like how many weeks would he have to put in 5 out of 10 performances before he's no longer the front runner for player of the year? It feels like already like we'd have to get to January before people go, oh wait, actually maybe he's not, maybe it's somebody else. He's just so clearly out in front as being the best player in Scottish football so far this season.
Yeah, he's been man of the match pretty much every game he's played.
Yeah, and Palma was the other one I was going to bring on as well. Yeah, the kind of. Yeah, I've said it before. He does it. He's a very different type of player in terms of Scott Sinclair in that first Brendan Rodgers team, because Sinclair was a lot more about power and pace, and he was just bloody terrifying. Palma's not quite got that. He doesn't impose himself physically on a game in the same way that Sinclair was able to. But he is just somebody that just seems kind of. He's that directness, the right footer on the left of the front three, the guy who's just going to be there about getting goals and getting assists, and in the Scottish top flight is probably going to average out getting one every 2 games, one of the two every 2 games between now and the end of the season. So
yeah,
seems like a decent purchase for them. Okay, can I start moaning about Hearts now?
Yeah, we're giving Celtic enough time. Go for it.
Yeah. Because, yeah, it might have been Celtic's best performance this season. They really weren't fucking going up against much, by the way. Hearts were... Like, so many... That's right, there's so much here. Where to start? Right, let's start with some terrible, terrible individual performances. Callum Nieuwenhof in the centre of the park. Abysmal. Absolute shocker. Why he didn't match O'Reilly's run from the 3rd minute in to... stop Celtic opening the scoring so early beats me, but that could have set the tone for his entire performance. He was completely all over the place. I think in recent matches he's actually started to come onto the game, and I've quite liked him, liked the look of him. He was one of the better players against Killie. He was Hearts' best player against Ross County. There was a couple of moments in the derby where he gave up possession a little too easily in dangerous areas. But otherwise, I was quite impressed with him. I like the way he can recycle possession quite quickly and effectively. And if you're wanting to move the ball between defence and attack, he's the type of player that I think is quite good for that. He moves it reasonably. He doesn't dwell on the ball too much, and his passing's quite good. But, oh dear Lord, he was so out his depth against Celtic there. That was frightening. Speaking of out their depth, Alex Cochrane. I think Alex Cocker is a very good left back, and he's probably still one of my favourite players at the club. I'd happily never see him go up against Dyson Maeda ever again. He gets tortured by him every single time, and this was no different. That was quite something. And not even just Maeda, because the second goal comes with him just not matching the run of Rio Hatai either. I was like, there was so many times like Hearts were so stood off of Celtic the entire game. I'll save it my Naismith rant till the end of this, but there was just Celtic. It was just made so easy for Celtic in which to move the ball and to pass it well and to do their triangles and to look as good as they did do. The Hearts just didn't. There wasn't enough physicality for Hearts in this game. They didn't try to throw. They didn't do anywhere near enough to try to throw Celtic off their stride. They didn't get in their face. They didn't try to upset them. They didn't try to do anything really. And the last of the dreadful performances, I would say Alex Lowry as well. And this could segue into the Naismith complaint. Is I thought Alex Lowry was. I mean, he came off the bench and scored against Killie. He came off the bench and scored made the goal against County. He was very good against Hibs. Every single one of those games, he was playing in the number 10 role, because we've already established so far this season that he can't play out on the left. He doesn't really know what to do when he does it. So why was he back out on the left? Well, I know why he was back out on the left, because, and this is the only thing I think Naismith really got right with this team, was that he wanted Vargas to start up front for his pace and directness. I think Vargas had one of the better games of any of the Hearts players, so that was the right thing to do. But then when you do that, he obviously is thinking, well, I can't really drop Lowry because he was our best player in the last game, and he's been a real difference maker in the last three. But I also can't drop Lawrence Shankland, even though kind of probably does deserve to be dropped. But he's the captain, and he's the top goal scorer for last season, and at this point, we kind of treat him like he's Harry Kane. Like he just never, not only does he never get dropped, he never gets subbed off. In fairness, this game showed why you don't do that. Like why you do just keep him playing all the time, because he can just produce what he just produced in this game, an excellent finish out of nowhere, having had a pretty shit game himself. But at the same time, I do think that Shankland should have a couple of games out of the team, to whether it's to recharge the batteries, recharge his mental batteries, to give him a kick up the backside, whatever it is. I think he needs to come at the starting 11 for a couple of games. Doesn't have to necessarily not appear at all. And especially with Rangers away coming up next, that maybe be a time to just say, you take this, you sit this one out, Lawrence, and then you'll be back in the team for the semi or for the Livingston or whatever. But yeah, so the main complaint about Naismith in this one, well, two. One, again, going back to last season, and this is what I keep doing with Naismith all the time, but where was the performance against Celtic? Where was the manner in which Hearts attacked Celtic in the way that they did? And I don't just mean attacked in terms of going at them in an attacking football sense. I mean attacked them all over the park, got in their face, pressed them well, harried them, used the tight pitch of Tynecastle, played with real intensity. Where was that we saw in the game where Hearts lost 2-0 because of Cochrane's very harsh sending off not long before half-time in this game? And also, substitutions, again. Why the fuck? I mean, the game is pretty much gone by that point anyway, but why the fuck did he start the same team in the second half and not bring on Beringame and not bring on Oda, the two subs that he made after Hearts went 3-0 down? And then, funnily enough, after that, Hearts actually started to play not quite as badly as they had been doing.
There you finished, Craig?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I yes, I would agree with all of that, just not quite as passionately as you put it across there. Yeah, I know. It's like when I saw Lowry was starting, I thought, I mean, I want him to, from a Rangers fan's perspective, I want him to start these games because I want him to feel out of his depth and learn, and that's obviously the frustrating thing for Hearts fans because you don't care about that. But no. That's obviously the reason that he's on loan and he's not playing for Rangers, because he's not good enough to play in those kind of games yet. And he might show flashes now and again. I mean, he's already had the gift treatment for when he sort of sat down Rio Tati, which will make a lot of Rangers fans think he had a really good game, but obviously he didn't have anything of the sort. So he will give you wee moments, but the amount of times he actually, even when he did get on the ball, which is my probably my biggest complaint with Lowry at the moment is I don't think he's very good at getting himself on the ball. And certainly every time, and you're in a game like that, and he got bullied by Alistair Johnson badly. Any time it was a sort of big 50-50 or ball came up to Lowry and Lowry had his back to goal, he just was losing every time, I thought. But even the times towards the end of the first half, he did get on the ball a couple of times in sort of decent enough positions. He drifted into a central position on the ball and just was very wasteful. So yeah, he's that will be the frustration, because I think he probably will be better in that kind of game at the end of the season if he keeps playing every week. But he's a fair distance off being the whole package, and that's you will get he will win Hearts games this season. He already has, obviously, and he'll win Hearts more games this season, but he will also let Hearts down pretty badly, which is in a way that would be more than forgivable if he was a Hearts youth player, but he's not. So you have to weigh up. It's not quite the same as when Aberdeen had like Ryan Christie on loan, for example, because he'd already had that sort of period when he was at Cali Thistle. And he'd must have played 100 odd games for Cali Thistle before he left. So he was an experienced Premiership player at that time. Lowry's not, so you're going to get games like today where he's just sort of a duck out of water, or a fish out of water. Ducks are already out of water.
But for a small amount of time, they can't live outside the water, presumably.
No.
And what you said, like, I think you can't if you want to get anything against Celtic, you can't have a passenger in your team, and then he was a passenger today. He was not the only, as you said, poor performer for Hearts, but he was. I think the rest of the attackers involved themselves in the game. There were moments where they pressed all right. It wasn't consistent, but there was a couple of times where they kind of worried Celtic into mistakes at the back. And if you just have your wee bit of luck with that, and you've got another player joining that press, you're going to get away with that. But you mentioned Cochrane as well. He got no protection, which you need when you've got Maida. Even forgetting about Johnston coming up from fullback, like, you need someone just to even be able to go 2-on-1 a bit more with Maida, which you didn't get. And Maida's crossing, as usual, let him down. But there were 3 or 4 chances where he could have created goals even before it did become 2 and 3. So it was just that all round, like, I can imagine being really quite frustrated as a Hearts fan watching that, with the caveat that Celtic did play very well, because I thought that myself. I was surprised to hear Crocker on the commentary saying, they were showing signs of clicking against Kelly last week when most of their fans were a wee bit critical of how they played against us, I thought. But today I thought they were much more the Celtic that I think Rodgers wants to see. Obviously it sets them up for a big game in Europe in midweek where they're not going to be able to play the way they did against Hearts. So it'll be interesting to see how all that goes. Just to touch before we finish on that penalty decision, that's one of the worst VAR non-interventions I think you'll ever see. That was just not a penalty.